Summary of Glitterland written by Alexis Hall. Chapter 1. The disorienting swirl of disarray surrounds the protagonist as they emerge from a haze of unconsciousness. The heart races, and a foreboding sense of darkness looms, as if the very air is charged with an impending disaster. The room is hot, the body hotter, and the oppressive weight of the situation intensifies the feeling of being buried alive. In this disconcerting state, the narrator grapples with a thin grip on reality. The initial instinct of believing they are already dead is dismissed, but the horror persists. A dry, strange taste lingers in the mouth, and the thick tongue feels like carpet. The scent of alcohol permeates the breath, a sickening reminder of the events leading to this disheveled state. The body is soaked in sweat, and limbs are restrained under the weight of an unknown figure, arms across the chest, a leg draped over the legs, a macabre embrace that feels like flesh-made manacles. As panic threatens to engulf the narrator, a frantic internal dialogue unfolds, punctuated by desperate exclamations. The body, normally a silent vessel, becomes overwhelmingly loud, blood roaring, heart thundering, breath screaming, stomach raging, and head pounding. The impending doom of a full-blown panic attack looms, the first in a long time, with little consolation in that realization. Struggling against the arms and legs that confine them, the protagonist rolls off a bare mattress onto cold floorboards. The initial thought of being dead and in hell clings, the darkness scraping against their eyes. Disoriented, they fumble for the scattered remnants of clothing in the abyss-like void of the room: trousers, shirt, waistcoat, jacket, a lone sock. The phone, a beacon of familiarity and connection, is found, providing a semblance of comfort in its coolness. Half-dressed and clutching the remaining pieces of their dignity, the narrator eases open the door, allowing the darkness to spill into more darkness. A fleeting glance back at the sleeping figure, a moment akin to Orpheus looking back, hoping not to lose what little grasp they have on reality. The hallway is a narrow passage of neglect, marked by peeling paintwork, leading the protagonist towards an escape into an unfamiliar street. The subsequent breaths are labored attempts to restore equilibrium. The protagonist stumbles down the pavement, a rucksack of rocks metaphorically hanging from their shoulders, the weight of the night palpable. Suburbia stretches in all directions, an endless maze with a distant sea meeting the sky on the horizon. The phone becomes a lifeline, revealing the ungodly hour of 3:41. A single blip of battery remains, and Neil is called. The conversation with Neil unveils the complexity of their relationship. The protagonist, drowning in anxieties, pleads for rescue, revealing a vulnerability that contrasts sharply with their usual demeanor. Neil's reluctance and eventual agreement to come reflect a history laden with shared experiences and emotional entanglements. Seated on a wall, the protagonist waits, the irrational panic slowly giving way to weariness. A packet of cigarettes, a forbidden pleasure, offers a momentary reprieve. The internal dialogue reflects on societal expectations: don't drink, don't smoke, adhere to routine. The narrator acknowledges breaking these rules, anticipating the impending crash and its toll on their fragile sanity. Neil arrives, shirtless and tousled, embodying a pattern of red bruise kisses that hint at a tangled romantic history. The narrator expresses remorse, but the interaction reveals deeper wounds, exposing a relationship strained by unspoken emotions and unresolved issues. The car ride is tense, and the speedometer needle flirts with danger as Neil confronts the narrator about their self-destructive behavior and the toll it takes on both their lives. The tension escalates, and Neil's confession about feeling guilty all the time unveils the intricacies of their connection. The emotional exchange leaves the protagonist with a sour sense of injustice and a poignant question hanging in the air: why does Neil bother? The night ebbs into a silver-gray London dawn as Neil drops the protagonist outside their flat, determined not to look back. The familiar walls offer a semblance of stability, but the exhaustion is palpable. The protagonist climbs the stairs mechanically, finding solace in the repetitive physical action, yet the weight of their own existence feels burdensome. The key turns in the lock, the door swings open, and the protagonist steps inside. The hallway, usually a transient space, becomes a refuge. Overwhelmed by a surge of exhaustion, they lay down on the floor, seeking the comfort of familiarity. The stripped wooden floorboards, with their rough and smooth textures, bear witness to the unraveling psyche of the protagonist. In a kaleidoscope of memories, the narrative shifts between past and present, capturing moments of brilliance and happiness juxtaposed with the struggles of mental health. The protagonist reflects on their journey, from soaring and falling to crawling through gray days of recovery. The echoes of the past reverberate through the present, intertwining with relationships marked by love, guilt, and unfulfilled desires. In the silent hallway, the protagonist grapples with the terror of thinking and remembering. The narrative encapsulates the multifaceted nature of their existence, offering glimpses into a shattered psyche haunted by the ghosts of a glorious past and the specters of present despair. Chapter 2. The vibrant chaos of Max's stag night in the gay bar became a kaleidoscope of colors, pulsating lights, and thumping electro house beats. The VIP area provided a momentary refuge for me, an unwilling participant in the festivities. As I stood on the balcony, my eyes scanned the dance floor below, where bodies intertwined in rhythmic dance, their movements a symphony of ecstasy. The LEDs overhead streamed like a million multicolored stars, casting an otherworldly glow on the revelers. My attempts to escape the night had been thwarted by Neil, a friend who knew my evasive tactics all too well. He had disregarded my voiced reluctance and arrived at my flat, armed with a key that still opened my door. Neil, persistent and insistent, called this night a last hurrah, a nostalgic farewell to the people we used to be, or perhaps, the people we could have become. The protagonist, adept at evading social commitments and adept at creating elaborate stratagems to avoid events, found himself reluctantly drawn into the festivities. The stag night, orchestrated by Neil for his friend Max, promised an evening filled with revelry and perhaps a touch of nostalgia for the days when carefree abandon was the norm. In the midst of the throbbing beats and the frenetic energy of the club, I found solace in the music, a familiar drug that once united all the fractured pieces of my life. The electro house rhythms, with their delirious pulse, echoed a time when music was more than just sound, it was the soundtrack to my mania, a thumping heartbeat of sex and sound. As the protagonist observed the dancers below, a faint and distant echo of pleasure reverberated within him. The music, once a source of joy and escape, now served as a reminder of a long-lost visitor knocking on a door that no longer opened. The protagonist, caught between the allure of the beats and the melancholy of memories, stood on the balcony, a spectator to the synesthetic chiaroscuro unfolding below. In this crowded tapestry of bodies and lights, a voice from beside me broke through the music. It was Hugh, a fellow attendee at the stag party. He expressed recognition, having read my book, The Smoke is Briars. Despite my attempts to distance myself from my past as a writer, Hugh's enthusiasm for my work prompted a reluctant acknowledgement of the creative identity I had abandoned. As the night unfolded, Hugh's conversation delved into the realm of my literary endeavors. He referenced magic realism and compared my work to that of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The protagonist, worn down by the weight of depression and a sense of purposelessness, claimed to have stopped writing altogether. However, Hugh's genuine interest and encouragement ignited a spark, however faint, of the writer that still lingered within. Amid the music and the banter, a pivotal moment arose when Hugh presented the protagonist with a white pill. A little piece of happiness, artificial but tempting. The internal dialogue that ensued reflected the protagonist's conflicted relationship with substances. Drugs were a double-edged sword, offering a fleeting escape from the numbness, but entailing risks that the protagonist, despite his struggles, was not ready to embrace. The narrative unfolded against the backdrop of the club's dance floor, where Max and Neil reveled, and other partygoers embraced the night's liberating spirit. The protagonist's internal monologue revealed the depth of his depression, the fear of vulnerability, and the desperate search for something, anything, that could break through the pervasive numbness. In a twist of fate, Essex entered the scene, a flamboyant, audacious figure, clad in glittering attire. Essex's presence was a burst of vibrant color in the protagonist's monochrome world. He embodied a spirit of unapologetic self-expression, a stark contrast to the protagonist's subdued existence. Essex's introduction brought a new dynamic to the night. His boldness, whimsical charm, and unconventional approach to life intrigued the protagonist. The night took an unexpected turn as Essex engaged the protagonist in playful banter, flaunting his eccentricities and injecting an element of unpredictability into the narrative. As Essex continued to express admiration for my past work, the protagonist's internal struggle intensified. Essex's theatricality and unfiltered authenticity seemed to chip away at the protagonist's carefully constructed walls. In the midst of the pulsating beats and dazzling lights, a flicker of desire ignited within the protagonist, an inexplicable attraction to Essex's boldness and audacity. The club, with its swirling lights and infectious rhythms, became a stage for Essex to showcase his exuberance. His dance moves, described as sinuous, captivated the protagonist's attention. Essex's uninhibited spirit clashed with the protagonist's internal turmoil, creating a tension between the desire for connection and the fear of vulnerability. The internal conflict reached a crescendo when Essex, in a moment of audacity, suggested the possibility of a romantic or intimate encounter. Caught off guard, the protagonist grappled with conflicting emotions. Essex, with his vibrant personality, represented a departure from the mundane, offering a glimpse of connection that seemed both enticing and perilous. The narrative explored the themes of depression, self-discovery, and the yearning for connection amidst the chaotic backdrop of the stag night. As Essex and I continued our interaction, the night unfolded with unexpected twists. The streets of Brighton became the canvas for a journey marked by uncertainty and the exploration of desires. The protagonist's internal struggles, the allure of connection, and the juxtaposition of drugs and genuine human intimacy created a complex narrative. The night became a transformative experience, pushing the protagonist to confront his inner demons and consider the possibility of breaking free from the shackles of depression. As Essex and I ventured into the night, the narrative hinted at the potential for a deeper connection. The streets of Brighton, with their pale Georgian buildings and hilly landscapes, became a metaphor for the protagonist's emotional journey. The night held the promise of self-discovery and the exploration of desires that went beyond the superficial. In conclusion, the 1,500-word narrative delved into the protagonist's internal struggles, the unexpected encounter with Essex, and the transformative potential of the stag night. The exploration of themes such as depression, self-discovery, and the yearning for genuine connection added depth to the narrative, making it a poignant exploration of the human experience in the midst of chaos and self-discovery.